How's it going, everybody? I hope you're all doing well. Okay, so in today's episode, I thought I'd try to say something about friendship. Okay, so the contemporary philosopher Byung-Chul Han claims that today many friendships are increasingly becoming marked by a kind of fragile narcissism, where each party gratifies and pampers the other, and so where there's little honest communication and little conflict. But in real friendship, Han argues, honesty and conflict, these are actually good things. They're good because, though they're sometimes painful, they take us past ourselves and our egos and our superficial self-esteem and give us what he calls the transformative gift of the other. Now, I'll come back to Han, but it's worth pointing out that he isn't the only philosopher to talk about friendship in this sort of way. I mean, first of all, let's go all the way back to ancient Greece, to the ancient Greek thinker Aristotle, because he's got a lot to say here. So, somewhat like Han, Aristotle argues that most friendships are characterized by a kind of self-concern and superficiality. He calls them utility friendships and pleasure friendships, respectively. Now, these aren't genuine friendships according to Aristotle. Now, for the purposes of this discussion, the reason that they're not genuine is because they're based on flattery and on individual gratification, and so not on the real mutual growth that only happens when we truly open ourselves up to another person. Aristotle distinguishes these friendships from what he calls genuine or character friendships, the rare sort of friendship that fosters our individual development and our excellent character. Such relationships are marked in part by exchanging thoughts and ideas, and by being honest, however uncomfortable that might be sometimes. What Aristotle calls frank speech. These sorts of friendships are also the kind that make us more active and more creative, creating occasions for self-realizing activities that wouldn't have been possible on our own. In other words, these friendships take each of us quite beyond where we were or might have imagined in isolation. But most significantly, such relationships are characterized by those who desire the good of their friend for their friend's sake, because each loves the other for who he or she really is, and not simply because somebody flatters us or agrees with us or makes us feel comfortable. Friendships like this, Aristotle says, are not only enduring, since they're free from the possibility of betrayal, but they're central in the creation of a better life for ourselves. Actually, another ancient thinker here that also talks a lot about the importance of this sort of friendship is the slightly later Epicurus. So he also emphasized the importance of practicing frankness of speech or open talk. Actually, for Epicurus, this was the defining feature of a genuine friendship. Now, why would that be the case? Well, first of all, if we're too sensitive to voice our grievances, then there'd be no resolution of conflicts. And so our relationships, our friendships won't flourish. But also for Epicurus, when we lie to our friends, we prevent them from growing and from learning. So for him, to flatter our friends, to always please them, or to always tell them what they want to hear, betrays a real lack of concern for them. Actually, in this way, Epicurus and his followers thought of truth-telling as medicinal or therapeutic because it ultimately heals characters. Actually, I've noticed I've been mentioning flattery quite a bit here. And you know what? Now that I think about it, maybe no one has more to say about this and its connection to friendship than the Greek historian and biographer Plutarch. So he actually wrote a piece called How to Tell a Flatterer from a Friend. And it's really instructive here. So what Plutarch does there is, well, he opposes genuine friendship to flattery. Now, this discussion is often in the context of politics and princes, but he also applies it to friendship. So in the context of politics, Plutarch says that powerful people are susceptible to flattery from hangers-on and from sycophants, not only because of their particular station, but because they're inclined towards self-love, a pathology which causes them to develop an undeserved pride in their abilities. Does that ring any bells today? These powerful people, Plutarch goes on, they therefore naturally avoid true friends who have the courage to speak the truth to them. That is, they avoid, quote, those who are not yielding in speech, but instead take a stand against them for their own good. End of quote. The larger point here is that flattery and pampering only stokes self-love. And that's not what it means to be a friend. No, a true friend is antagonistic when the need arises. They provide resistance and contradiction. Actually, I said antagonistic just now, and that word is instructive here. And that's because antagonistic comes from the Greek word agon, which denotes struggle and combativeness. But here's the thing. That might sound negative, but for the ancient Greeks like Aristotle and like Plutarch, agon was used in a variety of ways. It could refer to real combat, or to athletics, or to an argument. In other words, the Greeks prized combativeness. By and large, it wasn't something to be shunned. No, and like Plutarch suggests, this was especially so in the case of friendship, where opposition and resistance was far more beneficial and appropriate than flattery was. Friendship requires the bitter pill of open and honest speech, not compliance and ego boosting. Actually, Plutarch wasn't the only philosopher to talk about friendship and flattery in the context of rulers or powerful people. But so did the 16th century French thinker Montaigne, who, by the way, clearly read Plutarch. So, like Plutarch, Montaigne also claimed that people of power are deprived of antagonism. And that's because everybody yields to them because they're cowardly and afraid. But somewhat paradoxically, this compliance from others, it doesn't help those in power. No, in fact, it makes them weaker and less capable as individuals. And Montaigne says something similar with respect to friendship. We become better and stronger, not weaker, when we develop the strong ears and the openness to being criticized and contradicted. To be able to endure a free and open exchange of dialogue and to hear somebody else besides oneself. This is the remarkable act of friendship. And to get back to Byung-Chul Han, this is what friendship does, what genuine friendship does. It mitigates against what he calls our contemporary hell of the same, a society where there is no other anymore. And so where all we have are shallow friendships, where what we get reflected back to us is nothing but ourselves. But this is not friendship. Friendship is not a confirmation of self. Friendship is an absolute gift of the other. Bye for now.